Hello and welcome to Pension Awareness Week 2020 and our third Live at Lunch session. So for those of you online, it's great to almost see you virtually. And thank you for taking the time to join us for Live at Lunch. Pension Awareness Week is really important. It's all about making you informed so that you can make those informed choices. So we give you a lot of information on sessions like this, but we also use the week to really focus on pensions and give it the focus it deserves. It's really important from our perspective that you value and understand your benefits, but also are able to start planning for your retirement. You may be years away, and one of the questions we've actually got from people today is about being 29 and thinking about what they should do with their pension. So it does affect all of us. What we want to make sure is that through these sessions you can learn some bits and pieces so you can take greater control of your pension planning, and also making sure that the things that are in place are the right things for you right now. So Pension Awareness Week, we would normally be on the road, so clearly at this time of the year, because of what's going on, we can't do that. So we thought we'd come to you digitally. So Pension Awareness Week is normally where we're out on the road meeting people in employers' premises, and we're there to answer some of the questions that you've got. So this time what we're doing is we're doing it digitally. And through the week, we've been doing these Live at Lunch sessions all the way through. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're on tomorrow and Friday. Monday was all about if you're a newbie, if you're on your starting your journey, what do you need to know? Yesterday was a generic pension surgery. Today is all about life events. So those things that happen to us that may have an impact on divorce, death, boosting your pension, those things that happen through life that you need to think about with a bit of a pension angle. Tomorrow is a 2015 special pension surgery, and then Friday is what we like to call the road to retirement. That's all about partial and full retirement. For those of you who are interested in tomorrow's session and also Friday, if you want to join us, you can do. You can use the same login details and log in tomorrow and Friday as well. So without further ado, let's talk about Live at Lunch. So the sessions are basically predicated on questions that you've sent in to us. We've got a number that have come in from people who've registered for the session, so thank you for that. And lots of other popular questions that have come through that are the ones that we think that you need to know the answers to. Today is also about asking you to take action. So Pause for Pensions is about take time out, we know you're busy, and think about your pension. And as you pause for pensions, see what we did there, it's all about giving you the opportunity to think about what do I need to do next? Or am I in a place where actually I'm okay? So we always ask you to do things like, if you've not been on the pension website, have you been on there yet? civilservicepensionscheme.org.uk is a minor information. If you've not been there, please do. Have you gone onto the modeler? Have you used the pre-populated modeler? Today's theme for Pension Awareness Week is Model Your Future. With the modeler, that's what you're able to do. You can get to that from the portal. Have you registered for the portal? Now, we know from the last couple of days that the number of people where we're talking about the portal a lot on these sessions are saying, oh, I'm not sure how I register. So there are two things that you will need to enable you to register. So if you have your pen and paper handy, or if you've got your iPad there are two things that you need if you want to register. So you can go to the scheme website, go and look for the portal page, and that's your jumping off point. You'll need two things. First thing you'll need is your personal identification number, and that's your member number. Now, your member number is on your annual benefit statement. Now, that will have dropped through the door between June and the end of August, and it's in the top right-hand corner of the cover letter. So that's your member number. It's called Our Ref. That's the number that you will need. It's your identifier. You'll also then need a generic code. You can then go and log on. So please do think about that as we go through today's session. Please think about the things that you hear that might be a call to action, because as we talk through some of the questions that you've got, you may be thinking, that applies to me, I should do something about that. So please do use this as your opportunity as a jumping off point. Now, before we go into the questions and answers, we'll have a video to play. However, I just want to introduce who I've got on the panel today. So we have two people who are our subject matter experts. We have Andy Jones from Cabinet Office, and we have Carl McFerrin from my CSP. And both Carl and Andy will be the people today who will be answering the questions that you've posed to us. They're quite wide-ranging, as you'd expect, because today's session is called Life Events. And I said it's all of those things that happen along the way. As a journey, you may need to go, what's the impact on my pension? What do I need to do now that this thing has happened? So we'll go through the questions and answers. There's quite a few of them. We'll try and get through as many as we possibly can. But before, we want to play you a short video, which is all about life events. So if you haven't done so already, grab a brew, sit back, Watch the video and I'll be back shortly.
Welcome to Civil Service Pensions. Things can change in life, so we're here to help you manage your pension when they do. If you're in Classic, Classic Plus or Premium, and you take a career break, you will not build up any reckonable service during your absence and you will not have to pay contributions. Therefore, you will not build up any pension for the duration of your career break. If you're a member of Nuvos or Alpha and you take a career break, in which you are unpaid, you will not build up any pension. Depending on how long your career break is, you may wish to look at ways of boosting your pension to make up for the missed pension benefits once you have returned to work. For more information about career breaks, please visit the publications page on our website. Many civil service employers offer forms of flexible and shift working. This usually means you work a fixed number of hours each week, but when you do these hours is up to you, within any limits set by your employer. This also covers compressed working. For example, some employers allow their staff to work full-time hours in either a 4-day week or a 9-day fortnight. As compressed working does not materially change your total working hours, your pension is not affected. If you're in Classic, Classic Plus or Premium, your service will be prorated accordingly for each period of part-time working. These periods will then be added together to give your total reckonable service used to calculate your pension. Each period of service will be worked out and added together to give your total pension. If you're in Nuvos or Alpha, your pension is based on your pensionable earnings. If you increase your conditioned hours, you will increase your earnings and your pension, and if you reduce your conditioned hours, you will reduce your earnings and your pension for the year. If you work fewer hours, your pension will reduce, and you may wish to consider ways of increasing the value of your pension benefits by buying added pension or making additional voluntary contributions to the Civil Service Additional Voluntary Contribution Scheme, CSA VCS. Part-time working is anything less than full-time. The pensionable earnings used to work out your pension are generally the full-time equivalent, regardless of how many hours you work. Working part-time will reduce your pension by reducing your reckonable service, but your pension is based on your reckonable service and your full-time equivalent pensionable earnings. In Classic and Classic Plus, your pension lump sum is based on your pension, so if you reduce your reckonable service by working part-time, this will reduce your pension and therefore your automatic lump sum. In all schemes, you can give up some of your pension to provide a lump sum, so if you reduce your pension by working part-time, this will reduce the maximum lump sum you can take, as it is a multiple of your pension. If you are going through a divorce or annulment, the civil service pension you are currently contributing to, or if you are a pensioner receiving, could be subject to an earmarking order or a pension sharing order. A court can decide that your ex-spouse or ex-civil partner is entitled to some of the pension you have built up during your marriage, or are receiving, if you are already a pensioner, as part of your divorce settlement. And this can take the form of either an earmarking order, a pension sharing order, or a pension attachment order. This is where a court will instruct the scheme administrator or pension payroll provider to pay a specified amount of pension and/or lump sum to your former spouse or civil partner. If the order is for a regular payment of a pension, the payments will stop if you should die before your former spouse or civil partner, or if they remarry or enter into a civil partnership. If your pension is subject to a pension sharing order, your benefits will reduce by the percentage specified in the court order. In Scotland, the order will state a cash amount rather than a percentage. A pension sharing order is a permanent transfer of your benefits and will not revert back to you on the death of your former spouse or partner. If you nominated your former spouse or civil partner to receive your death benefit lump sum, the nomination will be cancelled automatically when you are divorced or your civil partnership is dissolved. While you are going through a divorce or dissolution, your legal advisor or lawyer will be able to explain the full implications of earmarking order and/or a pension sharing order. The scheme administrator will be able to provide more information. If you're in Classic, Classic Plus, Premium or Nuvos, you can find out more by reading Pensions and Divorce, Dissolution or Annulment booklet. If you're in Alpha, please read Section 03B, Divorce, Dissolution and Annulment of the Alpha Scheme Guide. Both guides can be found on the publications page of our website. If your health deteriorates, you can ask for ill health retirement. Alternatively, your employer may put you forward. In both cases, the scheme's medical advisor must be satisfied that you meet the ill health retirement criteria. If they find that you do, your employer will then decide whether to retire you. You must have at least 2 years qualifying service to receive ill health benefits. If you're in Classic, you will receive immediate payment of your pension and lump sum. Your pension may be enhanced. That means you will receive added years of service. You also qualify for a tax-free lump sum. It is worked out as 3 times your pension and is payable immediately. In Classic Plus and Premium, there are 2 tiers of pension, depending on the degree of incapacity. The lower tier pension is usually based on your reckonable service to the date of your medical retirement. The higher tier pension will be based on all the years of service that you would have had if you had carried on working to scheme pension age. In Nuvos, if you qualify for lower tier, your pension would be made up of the total pension you have built up to date, plus all rises in line with the cost of living. Any added pension you have bought, any Nuvos pension you have bought by transferring benefits from another pension arrangement, any linked pension you have transferred from an earlier period of service. If you qualify for upper tier, your pension will be made up of all the lower tier pension and an enhancement. In Alpha, if you qualify for lower tier, your pension will be made up of the total Alpha pension you have built up to date, any EPA portions of the pension you have built up, any added pension you have bought, any Alpha pension from benefits you have transferred in from another pension scheme. If you qualify for upper tier, your pension will be made up of all the lower tier pension and an enhancement. For more information, please read your scheme's guide to ill health retirement, which can be found on the publications page of our website.
Okay, so welcome back. A lot of information in that video, which we appreciate. I hope you found it useful. Don't worry if there was so much information though you were thinking, what did they say in that bit? You can watch it again. So all the videos that we produce are held on what we call the bite-sized video section of the scheme website. So if you want to go back and play it, you can play and pause it, and you can get the information in there. The important thing, I think, you can see that this covers quite a lot of life events and a number of things that may happen, whether you're choosing a career break, whether you're going through a divorce, whether you suffer ill health. So again, please think about those benefits that are yours and think about the impact on your pension if any of those life events actually take place. Now, what I'd like to do is get into the meat of the sandwich in terms of the questions and answers that you've posed that my experts can answer. So I'm going to move over now to Carl and Andy, and the first question's for Andy. This is an interesting one, Andy. It's familiar to many people out there. I worked out how much I can expect to receive on retirement, and that's their state pension and also their other extras they may have actually put in, and it's not enough. I'm 43. How much should I be saving? Over to you, Andy. Oh, Andy, we can't hear you.
That's because I'm probably on the most typical thing where everyone's on mute and you start talking to yourself.
Just live, Andy. Proves it's live.
Proves it's live, definitely, yeah. First things first, thank you very much for joining us today, guys. I'm really glad that people have joined. First question is fantastic, and I personally absolutely love it. Not the fact that the individual's not got, they don't think they have enough, but they're actually taking the steps to plan what their retirement is going to be, what their income is going to be. Now, what I want to start doing first is actually talk about the tools that are available to you to actually work out what your potential civil service pension is going to be. David mentioned it before about the portal. Now, if you go on there, you'll see a tool called the Retirement Modeler, which is great. What it does is actually models or predicts what your pension is going to be when you want to retire. So if you want to retire at 55, it will tell you what your pension would be, and it'll already have the reductions for taking it early applied to it, so you can see what you will get. What also you're able to do is actually muck about with any potential pay increases you might have. So if you think you're going to have a 1%, 2% pay increase each year, you can do that and your pension will be adjusted accordingly. What you can then do is actually look at different ages you may want to retire at. So if you were thinking, oh, I want to retire at 55, but what's the difference if I stay to age 57? You can see and compare what the difference those extra 2 years, 3 years, however many years you want would impact your pension on. The next bit I want to just briefly talk about, because this individual has obviously done quite a lot of budget planning, is the tools that are out there. So if you look on the internet at the minute, there'll be a lot of budget tools out there. Now, the one I'm very much a fan of is on the Money Advice Service website, and that's very in-depth. It goes through what your expected outgoings are going to be, what your expected income is going to be, and it'll provide you with basically, if you have X coming in, if you have Y coming out, what's left over for the fun. Those who have seen it at Civil Service Live, I often refer to a basket weaving course, Tibetan basket weaving course in Bognor Regis. You're able to then do that. Once you've actually done that and you see you may not have enough for the activities you want, you might want to consider things like boosting your pension. So I have seen some of the questions that are going to come up, and one of them is about what can I do about boosting. So just a bit of a highlight to that, we do a facility called Added Pension, or referred to as Ronseal Quick Dry and Wood Stain, because it does exactly what it says on the tin. And the second one, as mentioned in the video, is the Civil Service Additional Voluntary Contribution Scheme. I know I've just reeled all the way through that pretty quickly. What I will say is check on the website. A lot of information on there. Let's see what the next questions actually bring.
Thank you, Andy. Well, it leads on quite nicely to what you've just been talking about in terms of ABCs. So again, as Andy mentioned in the video there, we talk about that you may want to be at that life stage where you go, I want to work out how much I need more. I've worked out what my outgoings are going to be, therefore, how can I do that? One of the questions from our members, Andy, is, are you able to advise? Now, I would say here, we don't advise, we only inform, we can only inform. With all things being equal, are AVCs likely to give better returns than just adding to CSPS? So I think the question there is, I can either buy added pension in the scheme I'm in, as you just mentioned, or I can go AVC's route. We can't advise, but can you just explain the difference between the two for our members?
Yeah, of course. So as you mentioned correctly, David, added pension, you're buying extra pension in the scheme you are a member of. So if you're a member of Alpha, you pay a bit more, your Alpha pension increases. Not only does it increase your own pension, but with the Alpha scheme, you can actually have a choice of increasing either just your own pension or your dependent's pension as well. You've got that choice. With AVCs, like I say, I refer to added pension as the Ronseal Quick Dry and Wood Stain. With AVCs or CSAVCs, I refer to this as going on a holiday to Las Vegas and having a bit of a gamble. The reason I say it's a bit of a gamble is that the contributions that you make are actually invested in stocks and shares, things like that. So if the market does well, you could be onto a winner and you could make money from it, which is great. On the flip, as we have seen previously when the financial crash happened a few years ago, people lost money. So where you can gain with one, you can lose with just as you can when you're gambling in Vegas. So it's how much risk do you want to take to it. Now, AVCs are a good way to save. We use Legal & General as the sole provider, who have various different ways your money can be invested. And then when you actually come to take those benefits from your AVC, there are various different ways you can actually go about doing it, from buying a traditional annuity or buying a pension, should I say. You can take everything out as a lump sum as you want, subject to tax, or you can take bits of lump sums out each year, depending upon what you want to do. Again, we have some very detailed guides online on our scheme website about AVCs and added pension. So if you are interested, as we were saying for pause for pensions, have a little pause, think about what is best for you. Do you want to be more involved in the amount you get? So AVCs might be something that you're interested in. Or if you're like me, so I've taken out an added pension myself because I'm not a fan of risk. I want to know what I'm going to get, which is the great thing about added pension.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. That's really helpful, Andy. And again, for those of you who are interested, remember there are dedicated pages on the website that go into the detail that Andy just talked about. I'm going to bring in Carl now. There's an interesting thing here, Carl, about paying in lump sums, and part of the video we talked about lump sums. And our member question here is there assistance to assist with a decision as to paying lump sums into pension? So again, we can't advise, we can only inform. What's your answer there, Carl?
So, hi everyone. So yeah, as you've just said, David, we can't really give advice. Neither my CSP or Cabinet Office are registered financial advisors. So regardless of what you want to do, your lump sum, if you are looking for advice, we always recommend you seek independent financial advice, ideally with someone who's registered with the Financial Conduct Authority. So have a look at their website if you need any help with that. In regards to what you can do with your lump sum, again, we can't give advice, we can give information. So Andy just explained the two main options of boosting your funds through pension added pension and contributing to a CSAVC fund. If you were interested in using your lump sum to buy added pension, that's great. It may be you've used the retirement model and you've worked out a set amount of added pension you want to purchase and you're interested in how much that will cost. Or alternatively, you might be really lucky and just have an excess pot of cash or savings sat there that you want to use to maximise your pension benefits. Regardless of whichever one you want to do, I'd advise use the retirement modeler on Civil Service Pension's website. I'd advise use the added pensions calculator. I apologise if you can hear my dog barking. They say never work with animals and children, so apologies for that. Well, as I say, if you visit the website, use the calculators, you'll get an idea of what that lump sum could buy you. And then from there, it's entirely up to you. But as I say, if you need advice, definitely seek independent financial advice with a registered financial advisor.
Thank you, Carl. And just building on what Carl said there, if you do want to look for an IFA, then one website you might want to go to is the FCA website. So that's the Financial Conduct Authority, and that's www.fca.org.uk. Going over to Andy now. Andy, again, we're talking about added pension here because this seems to be a common theme of interest from our members. I assume if you buy added pension, this is not matched by your employer contribution.
It'd be great if it was. In short, no, your employer won't match the contribution that you make towards any additional benefit. The reason for that is they're already making a very generous contribution to your alpha pension or your main scheme pension, so your classic plus premium, new loss and alpha, and they're also making a very contribution if you're in partnership towards your partnership pension. But for any additional voluntary contributions, that's solely on yours.
Okay, thank you for that, Andy. That's very clear. Carl, moving back into you, one of the things we talked about on Monday was about whether you can transfer in your benefits if your life stage means that you are going from one sector to another and coming into the civil service. So again, along your career journey, that may happen to some of our members. So the question here is, if you have a private ABC prior to the civil service pension, can you add this to your civil service pension to boost your pension?
Yeah, so again, another great question. Yes, you can. If you're interested in transferring the benefits in, it's definitely something you can do. As I would say with any other type of transfer, not just transferring your CS-AVCs in, there are strict time limits involved. Again, it's 12 months from joining the scheme. You should complete your transfer in. If you're not able to meet that 12-month deadline, you can maybe transfer into the CS-AVC fund through Legal and General, but there should be no problems as long as you meet the 12-month deadline. It should be no problem transferring your benefits in.
Thank you, Carl. Again, that's useful to know. One of the questions that came in from Dawn, thank you for sending your question in, was I have another pension frozen. Is it allowed to transfer to civil service pension scheme? So as Carl's just said, yes, it is. However, there is a 12-month time frame. There is a window. Carl also mentioned, though, that if you go past that window, you could look at CSAVCs, civil service added voluntary contributions. So again, don't worry, because if you need to then think outside of the 12 months, there are options available to you. As Carl said, please think about what those options could be. Back to you, Andy. This is about extra years. We talked about extra years before on Monday, I believe. Can you only buy extra years in the scheme which you are currently in? Or could I buy classic extra years? So this could be a scenario where somebody was in classic, they've now moved into alpha. Can they buy more of classic, Andy?
In short, no. Added years actually stopped back in it was actually February 2008, it wasn't April, for some reason. It stopped in February 2008. What it was replaced by, as I went into quite a bit of detail earlier, was added pension. So instead of buying years and days, you buy a amount of pension that you want to buy. So in short, no, you can't buy added years, but yes, you can buy added pension to boost the scheme you're a member of. So you could never actually increase your classic pension because you're now a member of Alpha. So it would only increase your Alpha pension.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Andy, this is an interesting one. This is from a 29-year-old back in the day. I worry that there's no point in paying into the pension scheme whilst it's linked to pension age, which just seems to get further and further away. And this is somebody who's 29 and looking into the distance. What can you say to that?
Fully appreciate that. State pension age has increased over the last few years, and it's understandable. But what I would say is, no, don't just look at your own pension. So your pension is going to be there, you will accrue it. One thing I'll remind people, you can actually retire early. You can actually retire for most people, it's age 55. But if you joined before the 6th of April 2006, your pre-2015 scheme, so it'll be mainly Classic, Classic Plus and Premium members who fall into that bracket, you can actually retire or claim that element of your pension from age 50. Again, I hasten to add there are reductions applied. But like I was saying, don't just pay attention to your own pension. It's the add-ons that the scheme provides. So it's things like, we mentioned it in the video, if you die in service or die in retirement, there is a pension there for your dependents. So if you're married, if you have a life partner, civil partner, if you have children, a pension can and will be provided to them. Then there's the death lump sum, where you can nominate, depending upon the scheme you're in, an individual or individuals or an organisation to receive a one-off lump sum. Then on the flip, it's ill health. So if you become too ill to work, your pension can be brought into payment and often be enhanced. So what I would always say is think of that bigger picture, not just solely what it provides to you, it's to you and your loved ones. Again, we're going to drill home about the scheme website, but the only reason we do that is that it does have a wealth of information on pretty much every single thing that you want to know. So please read the benefits package for the scheme that you are a member of, so you can actually see that full picture.
Thanks, Andy. And as Andy's mentioned there, in terms of the website, please visit something called the At a Glance Guide. So a number of years ago, we created this, literally does what it says on the tin. It shows you that these are the main benefits that you will get with the scheme that you're in. You might be in Alpha, you might be in Classic. You may have been in Classic and you're now in Alpha. What you're able to do is look at a glance guide in terms of what's the high level benefits that I would get. And hopefully what that will do is identify for you that it's not just the contributions, as Andy was talking about, it's the things that maybe are seen as peripheral, but really important. So that's the At a Glance Guide, and you can find the At a Glance Guide on the publications page of the scheme website. Okay, now one of the life events clearly is death. Andy, you said yesterday when we were doing Live at Lunch, it happens to everyone. Yes, it does. You've mentioned about death benefits as well. And one of the questions here is, are there any conditions on the death benefit, or does it effectively mean we don't need separate life insurances?
So what I want to do is actually talk about the two elements to the death. So there's the death lump sum, which I mentioned before. I mentioned actually both in the previous question. Is the death lump sum, and there's then the dependents benefits as well. Now, the death benefits lump sum, conditions wise, it all depends on the scheme you are a member of. If you're a member of Classic, you can actually only nominate one individual or one organisation. With all of the other schemes, so Classic Plus, Premium, Nuvos and Alpha, you can actually nominate as many individuals as you want, or one organisation. So you can nominate, like I say, anybody. It's entirely up to you. One of the conditions is that if your death benefit nominee is actually convicted of your murder, they won't receive that payment. So there's a little bit of justice there, I suppose. In relation to dependents' pensions, eligible children will receive a pension irrespective of what scheme you're in. Whichever main scheme you are in. With spouse, civil partner, partner pensions, again, it depends on which scheme you're in. So Classic, I always refer to Classic as being extremely traditional. A pension is only payable to your spouse or civil partner. So that, I suppose, certification needs to have taken place. With the other schemes, apart from Classic Plus, which I often refer to as the unicorn scheme, I'll come on to it just towards the end, is with Premium, Nuvos and Alpha, a pension is payable to your spouse or your civil partner or an unmarried partner. Now, when it being paid to an unmarried partner, there are certain conditions which need to be met. So you need to be financially interdependent on each other. Financially dependent on each other. You have to be able to legally marry each other. You can't be married to someone else and try and have a partner as well. You have to be able to be legally married should you so wish to do so. And you have to be mutually responsible for each other's welfare, things like that. There's a lot of detail on the we actually have a partners information form on the members form page, and it details the conditions that need to be met. It's also as part of the scheme guides. Now, with Classic Plus, I say it's the unicorn scheme because it's very, very few people are in there. I think I've only met about 10 to 15 people in the nearly 20 years I've been in the civil service, working in civil service pensions. And the reason I say it's unicorn scheme is that the way it works is the part of service you have accrued up until the 30th September 2002 is treated as premium. So for that, you need to be married. Everything afterwards, there is a pension element there for a unmarried partner as well. So it mirrors the Alpha, Nuvos and Premium schemes. Again, just to reiterate, death benefits page on the scheme website has all of this information on the schemes that you are in.
Thank you, Andy. Andy, just building on that, so what if somebody's in a position where they actually don't have a partner, they don't have children? Can their death benefit nomination be to their siblings or a parent?
It can be to anyone. If you really wanted to, it could be to me. You can nominate any individual you want to receive your death benefit lump sum. If you don't make a death benefit lump sum, it would basically be paid to your estate and be divvied up to however you put it in, if you have a will, things like that.
Thank you. Carl, moving over to you now, and this links into this section that we've been talking about really in terms of death benefit nominations, is do we need to update civil service pensions if we have a child to ensure they will receive payments if we die? So what's the process? What's the documentation that members need to complete?
So that really depends on what type of payment we're talking about. If we're talking about the death benefit lump sum, like Andy's just said, you will have to name your children as a nomination to receive that. As Andy said, if it's classic plus premium, alpha nuvos, you can nominate a number of your children if you have more than one. So we'd need the details for your nomination there. If we're talking about a child dependent pension, though, if you unfortunately pass away and you're worried about the pension payable to your children, you don't have to update us with any details about your children. Basically, if you unfortunately die, my CSP will write out to your family, try and get as much details as we can about not only your spouse, but any children you have. And based on the paperwork that we receive, we'll calculate any benefits due. And yeah, it's really that easy. You'll have your children basically be entitled to a pension if they meet the criteria, payable not just only throughout the childhood, but throughout further education if you go on through college and university. So yeah, it's really, really good, really simple, really easy, and my CSP will take care of everything for you.
Thank you, Carl. That's really helpful. And just one thing to mention while we're talking about this, there is a new facility this year, which is the DBN Online facility. So for the first time this year, you can actually complete your death benefit nomination online. You don't need to fill in a piece of paper, etc. You need to go to the portal to do that. So remember, you'd need to register for the portal. And then from there, it's your jumping off point into things like the pre-populated modeler that we've talked about, and also the DBN facility. For those of you who may have joined the session late, if you do want to register for the portal, you need two things. You need to have your personal identification number, which is your reference number from the top right-hand corner of your annual benefit statement. That's the hour ref, that's your personal identifier. Then you also need a registration code. And from there, you can then go into the registration process. Once you're in the portal, you can then update your death benefit nomination online. You can also then go to the pre-populated modeler. So again, a good opportunity to go in there. Then once you're in, you can do a lot more. Thank you for that, Carl. An interesting question here was about, is there a time limit on transferring in from other pension schemes? We've covered that off, and we have got that 12-month limit. Anybody who is thinking about that, please again look for information on transferring in, and you can see all the details there. Back to Andy on this. This is an interesting one, Andy. How do I get a pension forecast?
Best way to do it is really simple. Use a retirement modeler. So there is a standalone retirement modeler where you can input the data that's held on your ABS, on your benefit statement, sorry, and it will provide you with what your expected retirement is. And if you don't want to, so if you're a little bit lazy like me and you want the computer to do it for you, register for the portal, just like David said, and on there, on the portal, the retirement modeler already has your information pre-populated, so you don't have to do it. The reason for that, one of the queries we often got about the modeler was actually some of the complaints we used to get about the modeler was that was providing incorrect information. Actually, when we looked into it, it was user error. So we have the facility to take that away from you, so you can actually have the information that's on your ABS already populated within the modeler, and that's via the portal.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Andy. Andy, partnership. Now, you mentioned on the call earlier this thing called partnership. Some people might not know about that, again, in terms of the options that are available to them. One of the members has written in and said, I joined partnership because of being moved out of Classic in 2015. I moved back to Alpha in 2018. What provision is open to get those partnership years back?
So first things first, we will welcome you back. You might have left the main scheme, but hey ho. Some relationships, I know we've talked about divorce. Everyone goes through a bit of a rocky patch at times, but we would welcome you back into the main scheme. What can you do to make up for those lost years? We've mentioned it quite a lot. Boosting your pension. Consider things like added pension to increase those years you may have lost. Dependent upon how long you've been out, things like that, there may be a facility for transferring your partnership pension that you've accrued into the main scheme. But like Carl's mentioned it a couple of times, there are strict deadlines and timelines for that. If you are thinking of doing that and you think about transferring in, contact my CSP, who'll be able to let you know what your circumstances would enable you to do.
Thank you very much indeed, Andy. Last couple of questions. I'm very conscious of time. We might need to shoot through these. Divorce. So what happens to my pension if I get divorced? Carl, I'll come to you on that one. I've then got a supplementary question as well with regards to divorce. I'll come to you there as well. So we can bring those two together. So first question is, what happens to my pension if I get divorced? This is an interesting one. If one goes through a divorce and everything was split into two, and because the man did not contribute towards the pension, a percentage of the woman's pension would be given to the man. How could this decision be reversed? For instance, the woman getting her pension back. So, Carl, would you like to answer those two questions in one for us?
Yeah, sure. So if you are going through a divorce, then yeah, as David said, and as the video that preceded this Q&A session explained, it is possible, not impossible, it is possible that your pension will be included in any payment settlement as part of the divorce or dissolution proceedings. Basically, the courts can decide that your ex-spouse will be entitled to some of the pension you built up during marriage, or even if you are currently receiving your pension. This can take the form of an earmarking order, pension sharing order, or a pension attachment order. The video just briefly explained what those are, but for an earmarking order, the court will basically instruct my CSP to pay a specified amount to your ex-spouse when you come to retire. For a pension sharing order, it'll actually be a percentage of your pension determined by a court, which will then be used to give your ex-spouse their own pension. So that'll be payable for the rest of their life, basically. If you're going through the divorce proceeding or the dissolution process, your legal advisor or lawyer will be able to explain the full implications of the earmarking order, the pension sharing order, and what will happen, any fees involved, any costs involved. As the video also mentioned as well, if you do go through a divorce, one final thing to remember is your death benefit nominee. If it was your ex-spouse, it'll be automatically invalid. So remember to go onto the pension portal and update your death benefit nominee. But with the following question in regards to paying contributions towards your pension and why should your ex-spouse be entitled to it, fortunately, it's as simple as the court say so. There's pretty much nothing you can do there if you're not happy with it. Sorry, the court has said so.
Okay, thank you for that, Carl. I think that wraps that one up nicely. Final question, Andy, over to you. And this is regarding EPA, which again is something that people may have thought about. Can I ask a question? With regards to added pension, I have an EPA of 2 years, which I started this year. Can I also buy added pension? So, Andy, if you could just explain to people who might not know what's EPA, and then also can you then buy added pension on top?
So EPA, that is the actual name of it. It stands for effective pension age, but the name we use is EPA. What this is, it effectively allows you to pay a extra contribution to allow a proportion of your alpha pension to be paid up to 3 years early, depending on what you choose. Now, this individual has chosen to do an EPA -2. So whilst they're making those contributions, the alpha, that element of the alpha pension that they are accruing for that year, or however long they're paying it for, has a pension age 2 years earlier than their normal retirement age. So if you want to add in added pension, yes, you can do. As long as you've not already contributed towards added pension. There is a limit on the amount of added pension you can purchase. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but on the added pension web pages, it will let you know what they are. If you are interested in added pension, Carl mentioned you can do it in 2 ways. The first one being is through monthly contributions, which is the most common. Those contributions start from the 1st of April each year. So what I would do is we engage your employer to communicate out to you when the application period is open. The second way is through lump sum, and you can do that any time of the year, one lump sum each year. So in short, yes, you can do if you have an EPA and an added pension.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Andy, and thank you, Carl. So that brings us to almost to the end of our third Live at Lunch session today. I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope you found it informative, and also I hope you found some things that you've thought, I need to go and do something about this. And if today's session was a bit of a jumping off point, that's great. Things that we talk about regularly, please visit the website. Think about looking at the pre-populated model. Think about maybe using your DBN online functionality, as the gents have talked about today. Also, did you know that you can download the website as an app now? So you can go to wherever you would normally download an app and you can get the Civil Service Pension with all of its additional attractions on there available at the touch of a button on your phone. So again, you're never too far away from getting the information that means that you can start making those choices that give you a better result in terms of what you think your benefits are worth now and what they may be worth in the future. As ever, today's video, we will be putting a nice filter on it and making it available tomorrow on the scheme website. If you do want to join tomorrow's session with the same login, it's all about 2015, and then Friday it's the road to retirement, where we talk about partial and we talk about full retirement. So it just remains for me to say thank you again for taking part. We will be sending out an email survey next week, just to basically find out how was it for you, if you like what we're doing this week, because it's something that we could do on a regular basis if you'd like us to do that. So again, when we do send the email, please look out for it and complete the survey. So from me, I'd like to say thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day. And if you're joining us tomorrow, we'll see you then. Thank you.